Can you tell us a bit more about how you relate compassion with creativity and innovation?
Yeah, maybe for some people it might be a long stretch because many people relate compassion to, for example, Buddhism, where it's like more a spiritual way of looking at the world. And we relate many times also compassion to suffering, like when somebody is ill or when there is an accident or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's also about the small sufferings in life or just the tensions that we feel between people. And if we use those words, if we focus on that, then also the word compassion becomes very useful to also use in the workplace. Yeah. So one of the things that I noticed, my previous company, Networking Coach, some people might know me from there. I also wrote a book about
that. Yes, I know you from the Networking Coach.
Yes. So I sold that company. Was pretty successful. We were also the first official training partner of LinkedIn worldwide. So still very proud of that. But after 10 years, I was seeing in some companies progress, in others totally not. And I was wondering what is happening there. And let's say my whole quest also discovered some things about creativity or innovation. And let's say for innovation, I think there are two things that are important. And the first thing is that that our minds must be developed enough that we can tackle very complex problems, especially in this global world nowadays. So that's one. And secondly, most of the times we are not innovating just by ourselves. Most of the time it's in a team or with other people. And there has to be enough openness in the team or between the people to really have the results. Mm-hmm. So that were two very important points. So when I looked at the first point is that our minds need to be evolved enough. Then I discovered that there's a correlation with the consciousness level that an individual has. And let's say in general, we have, let's say the evolution of consciousness. There are three larger stages and then smaller ones in them, but the three larger ones are egocentric, sociocentric, and world-centric. So when we are born, we are a baby, we need the love and the care of our parents. So it's really, the focus is just on us, on the baby. So it's kind of egocentric. And then we start to go to school, we meet other people, we also embrace the other people from around us, and it becomes more sociocentric. Sociocentric is also the level of us versus them, groups versus the other groups. In the past were religious groups, and that are also fighting against each other, races and stuff like that. And then the world-centric level is that we embrace all other human beings, not just our own group. So when we evolve more in the consciousness level, we are able to tackle more complex problems. So that was one thing. And the second thing that I also discovered is when we evolve, we become less egoistical, but we become more compassionate. So that was already a link with compassion there. But then my next question was, how do we grow consciousness? And then I saw, actually, it's a natural process. We all do that. We all do that. And the hypothetical example is that when we were born, we get 100 development points. And each level, each consciousness level requires 10 additional points. So that means that we can, let's say, evolve to level 10 in a lifetime. But what happens that most people, they don't get to level 10. Most of us, or most humans, kind of get stuck level 5, level 4, level 3. And the reason for that is that when we live as human beings, things happen. Smaller hurts, larger traumas, and they kind of occupy development points. So by the time we get 40, where many people get their midlife crisis, we only have, let's say, 45 development points left, or 55 development points left, so we can never reach level 6. So then my next question was, okay, what can we do about this? And compassion comes back into the game there, because it is possible to, let's say, to free those occupied development points when we go look inside ourselves, to our shadow sides or the parts that are hurt in ourselves. But it's not always easy to do. It's not always, it doesn't always feel safe. It's not always, sometimes it's very frightening to go there. So if we are more compassionate for ourselves, then it's easier to do that. And we have people around us that are more compassionate, it also becomes more easy to do that. So that was kind of one, let's say, area that I saw the link between compassion and innovation and creativity. The second part was that we are not always open to the team member that we need to work with. Sometimes the reason is that something happened between us in the past. Maybe someone got all the credits for a project and I didn't get any. So there's kind of, I'm not going to work with this guy anymore. Oh, I will work because I have to. But yeah, I'm a little bit reluctant. So I'm not going to be totally open. But also can be people I meet for the first time that I feel like, oh, this is not a person that I relate to, or I feel, for example, a very dominant energy that doesn't make me open myself and all my ideas that I have in this team. So I developed the compassion technique. It's rather easy technique to deal with that situation. And what it does is, many times when we have that feeling we are not open, it is, let's say, mentally or visually, it many times is that we feel smaller than the other person. Or sometimes also when we are in the project and someone else is let's say dependent of us, or yeah, it's waiting the whole time to get input or whatever. Sometimes we feel bigger than the other one, and so we are bigger and they are smaller. And the compassion technique is kind of clearing that space, that people are back at the same height, visually, if I can put it that way. So it's easier to work together again. The other thing is that we do with the compassion technique is that we reconnect the two brain hemispheres. Many times when we have stress, and stress could be, okay, I need to finish a job by 5 o'clock in the afternoon, but also many times we get, most of the stress we get is from the interactions with other people. So when we are in that higher, lower relationship with somebody else, like sometimes like a parent-child relationship, then we kind of, or more in a stressful situation, and then what happens is that we block out one of our two brain hemispheres. And when we are not, when we don't have full access to those two brain hemispheres, then we don't have the overall capacity for problem solving or to innovate. Mm-hmm. So that are the two ways that compassion can really help to get more innovation or more creativity. The compassion technique, everybody can do it for themselves, but it's also very powerful if a team does it together. It can be done in silence. You don't have to do it, don't have to speak, or if not, for example, we work together and I don't feel totally comfortable with you, I don't have to voice that. We can just do it by ourselves. And for me, it's a good add-on to all the say brainstorming techniques or ways of working together, like sociocracy 3.0 is something that it's in Belgium, where I'm from, is very, very hot at this moment. there are kind of, yeah, other ways of working together in techniques or processes. From my, let's say, what I bring to the table with that is it's also about the let's say the unconscious level between people. If there is something that's blocking there, it also can be resolved and pretty easily.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I think that the power of the unconscious in terms of all sorts of dynamics, the way we perceive others, our biases, our prejudices, our preferences, all of those, very often they are unconscious even to ourselves. We're
Yeah.
not aware of our preferences and our prejudices.
Yes, exactly. And then it's also when people grow in their consciousness, then become more aware of what you're saying, of all the prejudices. So that's, let's say, the first basic level of the compassion technique is free on the website of the compassionateleader.org. And for people who want to do more and let's say go deeper in that, and look at their prejudices, also that helps to evolve. And we have a more, let's say, more advanced version of the technique. But that's only for people who are ready for that, who are willing to look at their own shadow sides.
Yeah, that's so interesting, because very often I've been in a privileged position as an observer in education, for example, and I often look at, why a teacher will give more attention to one student compared with another, and it's like, because I'm an observer to that, I suppose even in asking those questions, it's my own prejudices and preferences. It's like, why am I questioning it in the first place? Why do I notice
Yes.
something and I, totally overlook other things? So what is it that makes us pay attention to one thing more than another?
Yeah, yeah, and it's very interesting. One of the things that one of the, let's say, methodologies or the way of looking at consciousness development is spiral dynamics, and it's very interesting for me when I really understood how that worked. I start looking at the world in a different way. For example, when you look at the Brexit or what's Trump doing in the States, and the reactions to that, it's not about, let's say, logical fact things, but it's a clash between consciousness levels, and that's the only thing. And the pity, or it's a pity that we need to evolve more to understand, so we can look back and we can see that there are different levels, let's say, fighting with each other. And when people are not involved enough, they don't see that there are different levels. So one of my goals as the compassionate leader is have enough people that are willing to look at this and to share that with each other. That's why I also started a free community on the website where people can find each other. They say, okay, I'm willing to do this. I'm willing to go for, let's say, compassion in the workplace, and share with other people the experiences, and come together on online events or live events to share what we have done. And for me, it's also when we have compassionate leaders, whether they're business owners or managers, they can be the example, and also many times they are the bottleneck in consciousness development of their own staff. So that's why I focused on the compassionate leaders. While of course the principles are available and applicable to everyone. I think we need more compassionate leaders to get to the solutions we need in this global world faster.